purchasing that ahead of time to save your time in a line. We will also be offering that hybrid so that you can participate virtually if you're not available to be there in person. The big conference that's happening in just a couple weeks is the Alaska Travel Industry Association's conference. Registrations were right around 350 the last we heard, and so we'll probably be seeing around 400 people. There's still hotel rooms, so people are still booking. The one important thing to note is that they will not have walk-up registrations, and so they're asking everyone to pre-register. If you're interested in attending the conference as a participant, I think October 2nd is the deadline for registering. We will have opportunities for community involvement through volunteers, and we have a whole site that we have developed with different time blocks. They're in 2-hour time blocks that you can go in and sign up. Community night is a really important event that the Sitka community is hosting. Lots of opportunities for helping support that, bringing everyone around our community and really showing off our visitor industry and attractions and development that we've done, as well as readers at the airport. There's all sorts of things. If you're wanting to just help with some heavy lifting, we're going to be meeting at the Hames Center, and so that will be setting up, and we've got some work there. And then if you want to help with a more delicate tasks, we've got centerpieces and those types of things too. So we'd love to have anyone that is interested in helping, and they can go to the Sitka Chamber homepage. We have that link for the volunteers, and maybe we can have one of the staff put that link in the chat as well. We will have our Halloween trick-or-treating on October 31st. That's Halloween, and we have got our permit from the city to do the downtown street closure from 4 to 6. And so we thank our downtown businesses for helping host that. But we also welcome businesses that aren't in our downtown to do a pop-up or to partner with one of our businesses. There's also opportunity for donations of candy that you can bring to the chamber office, or you can donate some money and we'll purchase the candy locally and help distribute that to those downtown businesses as well. The advertising packets have gone out for the visitor guide, and so if you're interested in being a part of the visitor guide, this is the time to look at your listings and update them. And if you're wanting to have a bigger presence in the guide, this is the time. October 21st is the deadline for content for that. And the Visit Sitka office is open if you're interested or need more information on that. And lastly, yesterday was PFD Day, and I just want to encourage everyone to really think about spending their PFDs locally. And I think being, as much as we can to spend the money that we're getting and keep it in our community. And if we can't buy it in our community, then looking in our region or in our state before looking to purchase something that's coming from outside. So consider that. It will definitely make a positive impact on our local businesses and our economy. So first off, I want to welcome Sarah Peterson. She is going to give us a little bit of information about how you can vote and how you can participate in this year's election. Sarah?
Alrighty, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good. So I just wanted to give a little plug for the election. The regular municipal election is Tuesday, October 4th. On the ballot this year, we have a mayoral race, assembly race, school board race, and then 2 propositions. So for mayor, we have 3 candidates, one to be elected, Stephen Eisenbeis, Kevin Mosier, and Valerie Nelson. And then for assembly, we have 2 to be elected. And we have 5 candidates, Ryan Matthew Herbert, Chris Chanowski, Tor Christensen, Chris Yestad, and Richard Jan Ween. And then for school board, we have 3 to be elected. However, we have 2 candidates who filed, Tristan Gavon and Mitch Mork. And then on the back of the ballot are the two propositions. One is regarding a marijuana tax to be used for student activities and associated travel costs for the school district. And then Proposition 2 is regarding using the proceeds received from the municipality for the sale of a former Sitka Community Hospital site for the purpose of constructing a marine vessel haul out and shipyard at the Gary Paxton Industrial Park. So we have a number of options that people can use for voting. We have absentee voting by mail. There's a form that needs to be filled out, and that form needs to be received in our office by next Tuesday, September 27th. If folks wish to vote by mail, they can download that off of our website or contact our office. There's absentee voting in person happening right now at Harrigan Hall. That's Monday through Friday. 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And it's in meeting rooms 2 and 3. So when you're looking at the main doors at Harrigan, it's just to the right of the main entrance. We have voting by fax, voting by personal representative. If you're not able to make it to the polls, or if you don't care to go out, you can send someone down to the polls, even with absentee voting, to pick up or to check out a ballot for you. And then of course the polls are open on election day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We have a wheelchair accessible booth and an ADA compliant voting machine in each of the precincts. I encourage folks to check out our website. We have their election information page. There's a sample ballot. I have a green one. You'll see these around. But there is a sample ballot on the site. There's absentee ballot requests on that site as well, and then other election resources. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on one question that I've been asked frequently by folks, how a vacancy is filled if a vacancy occurs on the assembly. So if that happens, the assembly, they have an agenda item, they discuss how they would like to fill that vacancy. They can, typically, it hasn't happened a lot, but in my tenure, a couple of times they advertise, and then they can either select from the pool of applicants. There's a 20-day window when that vacancy needs to be filled by. So they can choose from the pool of applicants, but they can also choose from one of the candidates in the election. So maybe like the third highest vote getter, for example. So I just wanted to touch on that quickly. And I think that's it. And if folks have questions, they can contact our office, 747-1811 or 1826.
Thank you very much. That is a very good question. So thanks for covering that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. So we will move right into our candidate forum. Paul Kraft is our board vice president and president-elect, so he'll be our incoming president moving in 2023. He is our campus director at UAS Sitka campus, and we have been partnered up on workforce development initiative and doing roundtables hosted over at the university. So it's been really great to have Paul on the board as well as in our community as we look at developing our workforce and what's needed for that. The format for the forum is that we conducted a blind draw, and Paul has that information of the order, and he will read the questions. Each question will rotate to in the following order, so whoever goes first will go last the next time. And we have several questions pre-written that the candidates have seen. And we do have some time for questions afterwards from participants that are online. If you have a question, you can submit it in the Q&A. It looks like the chat is enabled as well. I will be monitoring those, and as we have time, we will ask those of the candidates. Are there any questions before I turn it over to Paul?
I have a question actually, and that is, are we going to record this?
Yes, it is being recorded it's live on Facebook.
Right.
And so anyone that wants to see this or share it later, and if you as candidates want to share it out It is live on our Sitka Chamber Facebook page.
Thank you.
Great.
All right. Well, no other questions. Let's jump right to it. Thank you, Rachel, for the
Thank you.
background. So we're going to start, and Stephen, you'll be the first to answer this question, and then Kevin and Valerie in that order. It's basically an opening statement for you. Ask you to address this question: who are you, and why do you think you are qualified to serve on the city and borough of the Sitka Assembly? And what separates, as a mayor, and what separates you from your opponent that makes you the best candidate?
Thank you. I won the short stick last night too, and had the opportunity to go first. So we'll continue with the trends. So my name's Stephen Eisenbeis. Have been on the assembly for the last 8 years, 2 terms as an assemblyman and 1 term as mayor. Throughout those times as an assemblyman, I held positions as vice deputy mayor and deputy mayor as well, filling in the role for the mayor, not only at assembly meetings, but then in our legislative trips to Juneau and to conferences. What separates me? This is often a harder question for me because I don't like to puff my chest up much. I think each of our candidates here brings a distinct qualification and a distinct skill set, and it'll be up to the voters to decide which skill set that they want. I think one of the great qualities for myself is that I have served our assembly in bad times as well as good. I've been through 6 years of cutting budgets where we had to cut $1 million plus out of our budget. This last budget cycle was the first one I've ever been a part of where we actually added money back in. It was a weird and very hard experience for me because I wasn't used to that. So it was good, but interesting. Over my tenure, I think I've displayed some qualities that this community appreciates in me. I run a positive, respectful, inclusive, timely, and effective meeting. And I think that is the largest quality of my style, is that it can include all those things and at the end of the day get the business done. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Stephen. Same question for Kevin. Do you need me to reread it, or you have it in front of you? Okay, go ahead.
Well, hi. We just had a Raven Radio thing last night, so it's kind of fresh on my mind. My name is Kevin Mosher. I have lived in Sitka since 1993. I came here with the U.S. Coast Guard, served for a couple years, and then got out with my wife, and we got married and went to school here at UAS. Got our bachelor's degrees in business administration. We have 5 grown children. I've served on the assembly since 2018 when I was elected to a 3-year term, and I was reelected for another term last year. Since coming on, I've pushed for a lot of changes that I believe have helped. And like I said, anything, like I always tell people, anything that's done is always done as a team. But I've been a part of the team that has helped reshape and transform Sitka, the city, in many ways, in many positive ways. And I'm proud and grateful to be a part of this. And I believe that what I can bring forth is that same drive. As I said, I have 5 grown children. I know what it's, with my wife and I, we've had good times and we've had bad times. I know very well what it's like to struggle to make ends meet. And that's a lot of what drives me. That's a lot of why I'm doing what I'm doing, to try to facilitate an efficient team at the city that is working hard to get federal funding, increase economic activity to pay for our schools, our roads, things like that. And I see I have 30 seconds left. And as mayor, I'd like to just continue to lead in that way, continuing forward movement. And I also have shown the ability to listen and learn and sometimes change my mind when necessary. And I'd like to unite this community as much as I possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Same question, Valerie. You'll have to take yourself off mute there.
Good afternoon. I'm Valerie Nelson, one of your candidates for mayor. My residency here in Sitka started over 6 decades ago. I'm a former mayor and assembly member, and my roots run deep in our community. My grandparents moved to Sitka in the late 20s. My parents, 7 siblings, and children were all born and raised here, and many of them have remained. As a retired person on a fixed income, I know how important it is to try to maintain affordability, and that is why I chose to run for mayor. I graduated from Sitka High School. I've got a large dose of common sense. I attended classes at UAS. Wish I had more time to pursue higher learning experience, but family came first. And now that I'm retired and the kids are grown and whatnot, I feel I have the time to help Sitka. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Question number 2 is dealing with leadership. Talk about your leadership style. What is your leadership style, and how will this help you handle situations where there are multiple differing points of view? And Kevin, you're first up on this. Leadership style that you possess, and how does that help you handle situations where there are multiple different viewpoints?
Thank you, Paul. This is going to be a challenge to do this in 2 minutes. My leadership style is very, I'm not going to say passive sounds weak, but I lead by service. I feel that it's not about showing, a position or a title or power or authority. It's about leading from within, leading a group, and I like to do it that way. When I'm meeting with folks on initiatives or whatever, I like to bring everyone together, get some back and forth, and I think it's key to not take yourself too seriously in life. And I know my role, I know the authority that I have, but I also know that everyone has an opinion and we respect all views. And so I like to try as best I can to be kind and considerate and listen to all points of view as best I can. I may not always agree, but try to lead by example of treating others with respect, of being open, very open communication. I like the assembly meetings. I also like meeting with people in person. I love having a cup of coffee at Highliner or wherever and just chatting, letting people talk and chatting back and forth. I like to do that as far as conflict and things like that. I know how to do it. I can do it, but I don't have an ego to try to prove anything. So I know as far as running a meeting, I can handle delicate situations when they occur. I know a lot of it is just listening, and a huge part of it is listening. I learned that real well during one of the meetings when we had a person who was kind of rowdy, and I saw actually the chief of police at the time handle the situation very, very well, and I asked him how, and he basically said the same thing, just let the person talk, took him to a safe place where they could explain, and then he explained back. And so a lot of compassion, a lot of understanding, a lot of sympathy is crucial in this kind of role.
Very good. Thank you, Kevin. Valerie, you're the next one to tackle this. Talk about your leadership style.
My leadership style is to research the issues and be prepared for meetings, and I do my best not to go into a meeting with my mind already set. I believe that in our most recent past, many of our elected officials have gone in with a mindset that they only need to convince one other assembly member to see the issue their way, as evidenced in the numerous ordinances sponsored by 3 assembly members. I listen to public testimony as well as attempt to try to answer all emails and calls. I don't badger people that see things differently than I do, and I don't block people on my assembly email. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Stephen?
My leadership style has had the opportunity to mature and build over the years. My first opportunity with leadership came when I was 20 years old, leading Marines into combat. After returning home, I became a member of our fire department, and I've led and instructed firefighters and led them into burning buildings and burning boats. On the assembly, my leadership style once again has matured, and it's become calm, cool, and collected. I have a thorough knowledge of Robert's Rules of Order. I utilize that to the advantage of the assembly because it is Robert's Rules of Order that we build our basis on. My style, when I said calm and cool, I don't know if anyone has noticed this during the meeting, but the mayor has a gavel. I hide my gavel behind my nameplate every single time because I don't intend to use it. That's not who I am. That's not what I'm going to do. And I can, I believe I can get control of the room without using a gavel because that is heavy-handed, awkward, and unfortunate. My parliamentary decisions are respected by the Assembly. They have not been overruled, and the Assembly has the ability to overrule any parliamentary decision that I make during the meeting. I think that these things, as well as what people have seen throughout the years, are what builds me as a leader and what shows that I have the ability to continue this. One of the greatest compliments that I can receive from people is that I don't agree with you 100%, but I love how you run a meeting. And that to me is the epitome of my service career here.
All right, thank you, all three of you. The third question has to do with economic development and how to support that through your role. So the question, and Valerie, you'll be first up on this one. The question is, public investments and infrastructure are needed to encourage industry growth and encourage private sector investment. If elected, how will you support economic development projects such as a marine haul-out and healthcare expansion?
Public investments and infrastructure are important. However, more important is creating a city where everything is affordable. When I see residential sewer rates increasing 19.66% in the past 5 years, 59.09 to 70.71 a month, garbage rates increasing 26.21%, 32.96 to 41.60, water rates increasing 9.24, and electrical rates going from 21.42 cents to 23.68 cents per kilowatt hour. This includes the base meter rate. I can only imagine what commercial rates have done. If we don't have the bodies here to do the work because they can't afford to live here, economic development is nothing but a pipe dream. A marine haul-out and healthcare expansion are important. I support both. I also support CETA, and I think that Gary White does an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Stephen, you're next.
First of all, I think that in order to encourage public investments, we do need a stable assembly. People are not going to invest in our community if they see an unstable city hall, if they see an unstable assembly. Chaos does not encourage investment. We need to continue to utilize some of our excess tax dollars from the visitor industry to repair our streets, repair our town, so that our town looks as beautiful as it truthfully is. We need to continue to utilize federal funds to bring in match dollars for projects in our community. We can't do this alone. We'll never be able to do this alone. However, if you have a strong relationship with your federal delegation, perhaps match dollars can continue to come in. For one of the large, actually I'll answer that in the next question. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Kevin.
Hey, Paul. Yeah, economic development, it's huge. It's obviously super important. My kind of vision since I've been on, since Valerie mentioned the utility rates, because it kind of dovetails into this. The first year I got on, we pushed and succeeded in getting a 1-year break from utility rate increases. And we focus on that because it's kind of something that you can't live without, and it's sitting you right in the face. And I do agree that it feels out of control. It's a lot of money. I mean, I know you can do comparatives, but it's a heck of a lot of money. And I understand that. So we did a 1-year break, and then I had some people, longtime Sitkans, convinced me, they talked to me and said, we need to at least keep up with inflation. And I respected them. And then I thought about it and did some research, and I agreed, we need to keep up with inflationary rate increases, and we have, except for last year, which we did not keep up because of the high inflation rate. The increases were under that rate. So my personal little vision this whole time being on here has been to, acknowledge that, try to slow down the rate of the increases, and then grow economic growth, like say tourism. So we have an explosion in tourism, in my mind, I would love to send that money right back to the people through utility rate, subsidization. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but a next best thing would be to take some of that money and start fixing this aging infrastructure, so that instead of having to raise rates even more to pay for those infrastructure repairs, we can use the money that we're now making from sales tax revenue from tourism and other related things. So it's kind of a tight dance that we have to run, and I can't finish this whole thought in 24 seconds, but that's kind of my vision, is to continue responsibly growing the economy so that we can use those tax dollars and that money that circulates to help repair our infrastructure, to support more economic activity, and help everyone have a lower cost of living if we can do that.
Thank you, all three of you, for answering that. We're going to now move to workforce housing, or just housing in the city of Sitka. We know that that's a big issue. So I'm interested in your thoughts about that. The question, and Stephen, you'll be first up for this. As Sitka struggles with an inadequate amount of workforce housing, what do you see the role of the Assembly in solving this?
The lack of workforce housing is not a localized issue. Communities all around Southeast Alaska, communities all around Alaska, and in fact, communities all around the nation are struggling with this same issue. Everybody's looking at it, and yet no one has found the golden ticket in order to alleviate some of this. I am more of a fan of incentives than I am of regulation. I believe that incentives can help guide, for instance, would be short-term rentals. I think that we can guide people towards long-term rentals by using incentives as opposed to ordinance preventing. I'd like us to continue to pursue federal funding opportunities for utility infrastructure. It's the base cost of developing land in Sitka that is preventative for most housing projects. When the Harbor Point development went in, it turned into a adventure park as opposed to housing, because a potential developer saw the enormous cost, and even with all the backing they had, they weren't able to make that pencil out. So at a bare minimum, the municipality is going to have to find a way to run the infrastructure in so that we can open up some of our lands for housing. And I'd also like to touch on daycare here, because I think this is an extremely important part of our workforce. We're talking about workforce housing. We have a lot of workforce in Sitka right now. However, it's been shown that many of them are staying home because of a lack of daycare. I'd like to work on a potential city-funded pre-K in our school system, so that we can get some parents back into the workforce who otherwise have to stay home due to the lack of daycare.
Thank you, Stephen. Kevin, you're up next.
Thank you. So as far as the city's role, I believe we should take an active role. The biggest thing that comes to my mind is opening up city land. I talked about this last night. We do have some city land. It's not all developable, but we should put and devote resources to try to develop the land and get as much on the market as possible, to get more, single family, multi-family dwellings on there, so that we can have more units on the market for people, places for people to live. I also did push with some really good people to get the short-term rental ordinance that happened recently passed. And I know it's controversial for some, but I believe that's just the first step. The purpose of that was to curb the exponential growth of short-term rentals in town, or to prevent them. But regardless, that's the first step that we took, and now that's not the only step. The next step is opening up land. I do agree with Mr. Eisenweiss about the child care. That kind of goes hand in hand. All these things kind of work together. The biggest thing is opening up land and getting as much as we possibly can, so that people can build, people can have a place to stay. So, yeah, I think we should be very active.
Very good, thank you. Valerie, your thoughts?
In my opinion, the Assembly should encourage the administration to look again at all the millions of dollars that have been spent in the past on the benchland property for development, and perhaps open some of those properties for modular or mobile homes. When I was much younger, mobile homes were considered to be affordable housing. However, as our community has grown, many object to mobile homes. There are also other lands like the Green Lake Road, where I think building sites could be made to be affordable. Granted, it's a ways out of town, but right now the city maintains that road and whatnot, and the only people that can use it are NSRA and city utility employees. I guess the city electrical director told me that not even the police have keys to the gates. So I would encourage more land being opened up, but by the same token, the Fed has raised the interest rates on mortgages now to almost 7%. So that's not really very affordable to me. And I think those things need to be looked at. Thank you.
All right, very good. We're going to move to the topic of the visitor interest. And Mr. Moser, you'll be on tap first for an answer to that question. As one of Sitka's top industries, what is your viewpoint on the growth of the visitor industry in Sitka, and how should we move forward as a community to discuss and plan for the future?
Thank you. Well, the tourism industry, I think, is a blessing. Brings in a lot of money, and it's growing rapidly. I think just a little more than we're all comfortable. I mean, obviously, for me too included, it feels like too much right now. But I think there's some variables right now that confuse that, like the road construction and the downtown light that doesn't have a left-hand turn signal. Also, the development out at the end of the road isn't complete yet. So I believe that tourism is a good thing, but it should be managed carefully. As far as how we, manage that would be the assembly working hand in hand with the planning commission. In fact, we have a meeting, I think, in next month, I believe, or November, where the planning commission and the assembly will have a joint meeting to discuss, kind of recap how the tourism went this last time. It'll be an open public meeting, and that conversation needs to continue on to get input from the public on what their appetite is, what they think of things, and we just, continue to work with the assembly and planning commission is how I see we manage that. Also, the mayor's role as well is to work, meeting with, going to Sea-Trade, Sea-Trade and meeting with cruise line execs, kind of getting a relationship with them, a healthy relationship one with them, so you kind of can touch base when you need to and kind of make sure that we have the right balance of people that are visiting, enjoying it, and also that we're not overwhelmed, but we're getting the benefit of the tax dollars for the city, and then also the revenue and people's, people who are having businesses. Those two ways, I think, are the primary ways to kind of manage that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Nelson, you're next. Speak to us.
I have to apologize because I didn't get these questions until 10:30 this morning due to some error or miscommunication. So I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, but as an almost lifelong resident, I believe that the growth in the visitor industry has been positive. I don't believe the plan that was implemented this summer was a great one. Many have said it was like the assembly administrator and visitor industry raised a big middle finger to a lot of locals. I think that we probably still have more room. It's been said we've never had this many visitors before, but I remember that we had some pretty busy days in years past, long before COVID. So I think there's room for improvement. I don't think we should shut Lincoln Street down. And we had a question last night on the KCAW forum about could we limit it? Because we have a private dock, I think that would be a slippery slope to try to vote that, and I think we would be in litigation. But I like what Visit Sitka is doing, I like what the Chamber does, and as almost lifelong resident, I stay away from downtown when we have 4,000 or 5,000 people here. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Eisenmeis.
So as the question indicates, visitors are definitely one of the pillars of our economy, of that three-legged stool that John Leach likes to say. I do think that we need to accommodate this as it goes forward. We we as a town still need to grapple with what the right level is. Coming into this year, we thought that this number was going to be completely unmanageable, and I think there was a lot of fear of the unknown. Going into next year, we're going to have almost 200,000 more visitors than we did this year. And again, for me, there's some fear of the unknown. But after you start to work this season, you realize that a 5,000-6,000 passenger day isn't as busy as you thought it was, and is much more manageable than anticipated. In talking with representatives from CLIA, it sounds as if Sitka is a somewhat self-limiting town. They don't believe our numbers rising much past next year's cruise ship numbers, which although we haven't been there yet, I think can be a healthy number for Sitka. I absolutely do not want to become a Ketchikan or a Juneau, and would fight pretty hard against that. Some things that we really do need to do with our visitor industry. We need to complete our cost allocation study. That's going to allow us to use some of the head tax money garnered from cruise ships to reinvest back into our enterprise funds and lower the costs for citizens. We also need to target independent travelers more. Those people bring extremely high value into Sitka, and are the low impact visitors that we want to see. Next year is going to be a little bit tough though, because we're going to lose an entire hotel to our overnight stays. Coupled with the potential downturn in short-term rentals, I'm not sure how many independent travelers we may be able to attract next year, but we do need more of them. They're very high dollar, low impact.
All right, well, thank you all. That concludes the prepared, all but one of the prepared questions will be a closing statement. But Rachel, I'm wondering if we have some questions that have come from the audience, the public audience.
We do have an interesting question from an anonymous attendee. And I'm not sure what it's getting at, so I don't know. What do you think, Paul? Should we ask that one? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can, and I'm just I'm not sure it's germane to
our discussion
that we have here as far as determining the best fit of our candidate with the vision for the city and assembly. And
so anyone that's online that does have a question, the Q&A is how you can put that in. I just have, I have one that I came up with while we were sitting here. One of our priorities is to, of the chamber board, is to support local business by encouraging businesses and government and residents to shop local first. I would ask the candidates, how do you feel about the city really taking maybe a stronger approach to shopping local? And that goes everything from, you know, where you're buying your office supplies to choosing and selecting contractors for RFPs that go out. How do you feel about that kind of moving forward? And I know that there's been an ordinance that was several years ago, but I don't know that it's really come forward in recent years. And I'm not sure where we are with the order, but Paul, hopefully you've got it.
I do. Valerie, Stephen, and then Kevin.
Thank you.
You know, the city can do all they want to encourage buying local, but people that are watching their dollars are going to not spend $25 for a coffee, or what, 25.3 ounce thing of coffee, when they can get it on Amazon for $14 or less. I just believe that you get more bang for your buck if you can shop elsewhere for a lower price. I do believe in supporting our local merchants, and have heard that the city even buys out of town at times. Thank you.
All right, Stephen.
Shopping local first is a large priority. Not only do I have a downtown retail business, but I believe it was myself and Matt Hunter that co-sponsored an ordinance to have the city look local first. Now there is a policy and procedure in place where before purchasing online, they have to go out and find if local vendors can provide that. We used to get quarterly reports on that. The number was actually pretty outstanding of how much money the city spent locally as opposed to out of town. This issue was so important to me that in one of my first meetings with John, I made sure that he was aware of our local purchase ordinance and the requirement for city staff to look within our businesses first. I also believe that online sales tax has helped even the playing field for our local merchants in giving them a little bit of a benefit, or at least equaling to some of the online advantages.
Great. Mr. Mosier.
Thank you. I of course I support shopping local. I don't know the legality of trying to force people or the benefit of trying to force any type of shopping here. I do support that policy that we have currently. I would like to do whatever we can to incentivize and encourage people to shop local. But yeah, if you're a family struggling, you're going to buy it wherever it's cheapest as much as you want to support. And so we need to think of creative ways to make it more affordable or incentivize people to actually want to buy here. And I'd be open to investigating and looking to ways and possibilities we could do that.
Thank you. We have had some more questions come in, and we've got a few more minutes in the forum, so that's great. The first one, in the past, cities' efforts to sell off land to create more affordable housing have failed. Specifically, the RFP that was put out for affordable housing on the benchlands turned into a sale with no affordable housing requirements. Beyond city land sales alone, what is your approach to create permanent affordable housing for Sitka for permanent residents?
And Stephen, you would go first on this one. Stephen, Kevin, and Howard.
Yeah, a lot of the efforts that the city has put in with open land have come up a little bit short. And that if you look at the housing stock that we've added since I'd say the early 2000s, they've all been larger houses. None of them have been geared towards that affordable type house. That was what was in demand, so that's what contractors built. And I think that has exacerbated our problem now, where we have larger houses than many can afford, are the proliferation in Sitka. Even if you look at the Lillian Drive subdivision, which was specifically created as a pocket community with small lot sizes to maintain affordability, the market spoke, and now those houses sell for just as much as any other house on the market. Affordability may have been for the first purchaser, but did not carry through. It's a very tough issue in Sitka, and definitely needs more looking at. And however, the free market does determine a lot of that here.
Kevin?
Paul, yeah, as far as I think I'm understanding the question. Instead of just opening up blanket land, like say, hey, we have land, you can either develop it or we'll develop it, whatever, and there's the price. I think there's things you could do. Say you had a certain parcel of a certain amount of acres, you could have a certain portion that available for regular resident, whatever people want to build and sell. I think the land trust model is also it's not for everyone, but it's proving to be successful. And I believe that is a model that should be supported. So of the possible granting of some lands to the land trust to develop some of those, also allocating some areas of development for mobile homes, modular homes, and multifamily dwellings, condos, things like that. Being creative with the way we open up the land so that there's the possibility for more development, for more families, etc.
Valerie? You're on mute.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. It says that past RFPs have failed for developing, such as the benchland sale, and beyond city sales alone, what is your approach to create permanent affordable housing in Sitka for permanent residents.
Thank you. I believe that to create affordable housing, we need to quit with all the fees that they continue to add on to homeowners, property developers. It used to be that you could hook into city sewer for $500 or whatever. Now they've gone up, and every time you want to touch anything, you got to pay a fee. And in speaking with people that are developing the property out for the next tourist attraction, it's hard to work sometimes with city staff because of the interpretation or misinterpretation of rules and regulations. So we need to work more with the community and encourage multi-unit housing. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question talks about transportation, and we absolutely have seen a shortage in transportation options this summer. I think one of the most striking moments was I was on my way to pick up someone from the 12 o'clock midnight flight. And so it was just before midnight. And there was a gentleman walking down the towards the bridge, on the bridge, with a luggage cart and a duffel bag. And it's very clear that we have a really big challenge with this. The question is, what can the city do about the taxi shortage problem and problems people have getting to and from the airport?
And this is Kevin, you're first up for this. Kevin, Valerie, and then Stephen.
Thank you. So yeah, this is a big issue. I don't think there's hardly anybody who hasn't taken a drive over the bridge and seen sometimes people walking with their luggage, and it's tough to see. I know some locals will give them rides, and I haven't actually done that yet. Only because times I've seen it, it's been a huge family, and I don't have enough room in the car. But I think. So I was just writing all this down. So my point is, it's my understanding that the Police and Fire Commission and the Police Department are working on an ordinance this fall to introduce to the Assembly this fall that will address this very issue. The two main things, from what I've been told, are to make it easier for taxis to get licensed and certified and to get on the road, and also to possibly allow ride-sharing services like Lyft or Uber or what have you. So those, I haven't had eyes on it yet because that's not originating from me, it's originating from a commission and the police department, but I am encouraged and I'm eager to look forward to that.
Valerie.
As a former owner of a short-term rental, I had the opportunity to help people by picking them up at the airport, touring them around because they couldn't find a place to stay. I offered them my bedroom. I've also been over at the airport picking up other people and had people coming off asking for rides. I delivered them. And of course, I'm not an Uber or a Lyft or anything, but everybody wanted to compensate. There's a price to fuel and whatnot. And I think the city can do a better job with our taxi services. And there are problems with certain taxi companies that don't follow the rules. And we could be more proactive at getting transportation from the airport. Thank you.
So I as well have seen the issues caused by a shortage of transportation in town. Just the other day, I gave a Marine Corps recruiter a ride to Mount Edgecombe High School because he was walking down the side of the road in his dress uniform and could not reach a cab company. I don't know if he would have been to school in time in order for whatever he was doing there. So it definitely is an issue. I am also aware of the efforts with the police chief and John Leach in order to rewrite our taxi code to hopefully encourage some more investment in cab companies. We definitely have less cab companies now than at any time in the past, and we also have more demand for those cab companies than any time in the past. One of the large issues, I believe, is that cab companies can be both tours and cabs. And if you can pull a $400 tour versus a $20 cab fare, I think you're going to go with the tour every time. So separating those out. I also had a new taxi cab company come and talk to me the other day, and talking about airport runs. They said that they would do airport runs, but the shuttle buses have been doing a good job of picking up people. So it's kind of thank you for picking up people, but on the other hand, it's kind of taking their business there. And the ride should go to the airport as well.
Thank you. I was going to put that idea just out into the universe as well. We have one more question, and then we'll go back to our closing statements. This talks about what is your philosophy for working with city staff? What will you do to ensure there is a positive and collaborative relationship between the assembly and the staff that maintains the recently achieved stability in city leadership?
Valerie, the order will be Valerie, Stephen, and then Kevin.
City leadership, I don't know if we can call it an administrator being here for 2 years is stability, but I was one of the people that voted to hire on the administrator. I believe work well. The city clerk, Sarah, I've known for a long time. And I don't know that I have a philosophy. I treat them with respect, and I think that's what's needed. Thank you.
Stephen?
I will absolutely call John Leach stability within our community. The initiatives that he has gone down are going to save us money in the long run and ensure that we are a successful community into the future. A cornerstone of my tenure here has been collaborating and supporting city staff. I extremely value that, and I believe that that is valued within city staff as well. Right now is the absolute worst time to go to war with your city employees. Jobs are plentiful and employees are not. If we want any sort of economic development in this town, we have to keep our people in their positions. If they leave for another position, there's no chance that we can ever hire that person back. We also need to give the city staff the support they need. The building official was massively overworked. So we've put in the budget an assistant for him so that we can get building plans approved, we can get construction projects going, and we can work more towards that economic development that everyone craves.
All right, and have I heard from everybody? I've lost track.
Just Kevin.
Yeah, please jump in, Kevin.
Okay, I only got 1 minute, so I'm gonna steal a little bit of what Stephen said. I ditto everything just he said basically, but something I wanted to focus on is I believe as mayor, it's appropriate to on occasion, as you know, you have a time, just stop in, visit with John Leach, visit with the staff up on that floor, and possibly visit other department heads and other staff and just kind of chat a little bit, not in any type of way where you're giving direction or even allowing any implication of that, but a little bit of face time goes a long way with people. And I think when people get to know you and they get to know, people get to know you, you get to know them, there's that humanizing and that relationship, and that allows for a freer flow of information and just a more level of trust. So I believe as mayor, it's really important to build that trust with the staff, and if we can plan on doing that. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for those answers to the questions that came in from the public. This is, we'll have 1 more minute for each of you for a closing statement. And I'd like to hear your thoughts about what would your service as the mayor mean for the community. I'm going to go in a different order than what's listed on the piece of paper you have in front of me, just to make sure we go with continuing on with the from our last set of questions. So it'd be Stephen, Kevin, and then Valerie. What would your service as mayor mean for the community?
Service as mayor would mean more of the same for the community. We've built a very strong base that I intend to continue on. We have a strong and stable assembly that fosters productivity. Every person who comes up to the assembly table receives their fair and equal time. I've worked to build consensus amongst the assembly. I've fostered great relationships with our state and federal delegation and agencies. I run a meeting that is largely respected by the community. I will continue to value our city staff and their contributions to our everyday life. I'm going to continue to foster an appealing environment for business and investment. And also, I've heard while I've been out talking with people that they really want myself and Kevin to stay on the assembly. And I would submit now that going forward, we do have a way to keep us both on the assembly.
Thank you, Stephen. Kevin, your thoughts. What would your service as a mayor mean for the community?
Thank you. My service as mayor would be continuing on, as far as an agenda level, continuing on the basic thing that I've been pushing for. But as far as, and I think people have seen that and know what that is about. But as far as core issues is trust, loyalty, hard work, respect, kindness to all. We may not always agree, and I may not always agree, but I promise to push myself to be to be respectful and listen and compassionate and understanding as best as I possibly can. I plan on doing that as long as I can as mayor.
Very good. And Valerie?
Well, in closing, the current mayor says he's got fear of an unstable assembly that would be hard on administration and staff. But fear is the thief of dreams. It troubles me that the current incumbents believe that they have done such grand work that they should be retained for the stability of the city administration staff. Increases to city positions and pay cost the citizens of our community $1.84 million from last fiscal year to this. We shouldn't be spending money before we have it, and my service as mayor would mean more common sense and hopefully less cost to all. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you all. And Rachel, I'll turn it back to you to give a wrap up and to close our meeting.
Great. Well, thank you, each of you, for participating today. And I invite you to come to our in-person Assembly Candidate Forum next Wednesday at noon. Doors are opening at 11:30 with lunch at the Westmark, and we'll be having our session from 12, and we will take a small break at 1 o'clock for those that can't stay for the full forum, which will go until 1:30. I want to thank our Legislative and Community Affairs Committee for putting together these questions and our board for reviewing them. I appreciate all of the thoughts and considerations as far as how we can together build our community and have it be a vibrant, wonderful place to live and work. Just reminders about the information that we shared with the ATIA convention that's coming up, Halloween trick-or-treating, advertising in our visitor guide, and to shop local. All of that information is available at sitkachamber.com, and registration will be sending out an email for next week's forum, and so look for that to register in advance and secure your lunch. Thank you, Paul, for being an awesome facilitator. I don't know that you're going to get out of doing this again in the future. We really, really appreciate that. And thank you for the questions that were submitted from our audience and those watching. We will see you all next week. Have a great week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for hosting, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.